Coming up next, witness the latest infantile bickering between Tim the Enchanter and his beleaguered showrunner sidekick Stevie on Scary as Hell Theater.
Good evening, and welcome, one and all, to what promises to be an exceedingly hair-raising installment of our show, which comes to you as being anything but live from the drop-dead dreary capital of the region, Ghoul Beach, Oregon. This episode is going to be pretty damn hairy. Just so you know, it's hairy, so be wary. You've been duly warned.
Make a note of that, Garrity.
Therefore, I don't want to hear any whining. Not even the slightest whimper. Do you hear me? Because I'll pull this car over and throttle the lot of you if I have to. You can just spare me all of your complaining.
Oh, Timmy, you didn't tell us how frightful your hairy program was going to be.
Well, you can just belay all of that stuff and nonsense, all right? Are you about finished now? Can we get on with things here, if you don't mind? We have quite a lot on our respective plates this evening. Oh, by all means, don't let me, of all people, slow your roll, Mr. Underling. Gothling. It's Gothling. I know that you know it, too, because the name appears on all of your blasted paychecks. Do you seriously call those measly scraps of paper pay? Ha! Well, whatever you like to be called, I most assuredly do not. As a matter of fact, I take profound exception with the meager amount of currency you see fit to part with on my esteemed behalf.
Strange boy, Hans. He often plays until late in the night.
In light of all my exhausting toils, operating, as I must, in the armpit of the Pacific Northwest, with all of the sheer intensity and macabre intellect which I regularly bring to the table, to say nothing of the highly taxing expenditures of sorcerer's capital and magic-making mojo necessary to wield my poor beleaguered wand. Magic doesn't make itself, you know. But never let the big-named host be adequately compensated. No, no. Perish the thought. In the immortal words of our resident dean of horror host streaming culture, Mr. Halloween Jack,
nobody gets rich in this business. That's right, boils and ghouls. Take it from your old pal, Handsome Halloween Jack. And I ought to know, too, because that's precisely what every randomly selected fortune cookie I've ever gotten has stated. So yeah, it's gotta be true, right? No buts about it. Plus, I can assure you it's taken a lot more than mere chump change just to keep the haunted theater in its continual state of charmingly macabre disrepair. Talk about residing in a money pit. Therefore, No truer words were ever spoken. You knew the job was dangerous when you took it, Fred. Stevie. Or whoever. Now make like a tree and get lost, will you?
Bow wow. Woof woof. Bow wow 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 wow. Nobody gets rich in this business. Not in the traditional money sense, anyhow. But we are all rich, Tim. All of us. In ways of friendship and in sharing these happy events amid the seemingly endless tribulations of a troubled world. Don't go all Oprah on me. You won't soften my disposition with any such no-account drivel. Save it for the soup kitchen speech, Edith Keeler. The fact is, I can't wine and dine the ladies or bet on the ponies with any mere evocation of kind hearts and coronets. Enchanter, you're a poor creature. Sticks and stones, old boy. In any case, let me presume to take on your job by saying that we ought to move on, because little shall be settled by these feeble means. Tonight, my little thrill-seekers, we have... Yes, it's hairy, so be wary. Where did you get that? I certainly didn't write it for you. There are times, you bothersome little gnat, to my eternal flame, when the talent simply has to riff in order to up our game. But please, don't go falling all over yourself to thank me. As if. All right, fine. We'll move on. First up, we have something of a curious but relevant offering. It's a make-believe ninth cinematic teaming of the greatest of all classic horror icons, Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, in what functions as a foreshadowing of the vintage monkey business dynamics in our main feature. This short film is entitled Let's Go Ape, in which Boris and Bela are each cast as mad scientists on a perilous quest for a particular elusive potion, which acts as a cure for certain maladies. You know, you could always go and work part-time at composing vague TV Guide program descriptions. Very well. Grab a hold of your bananas, folks. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. But whatever you do, don't dilly-dally with the deadly black tarantula. Hey, it's strictly a killer ape thing going on here, Buster. There are no venomous spiders in tonight's show. I just love making a liar out of that insufferable schmuck. Don't you, Iris? Yes, I know. However, try not to judge all of mankind by his woeful example. Remind me to stock up on bug spray the next time I venture out to the grocery store. If I were you, I would not be so cavalier in dismissing the importance of my much adored arachnid associate. After all, spiders harbor a genuine genius for complex calculus and stratagems. As it happens, Iris is the one who originally discovered that when you play the classic David Bowie song, Time, backwards, it actually spells out the elusive method for transecting and maneuvering through time, across ever-sprawling layers of the multiverse. She's frightfully clever. Yep. Bug spray. Got it. Everyone is waiting. All right, all right. Hold your heavy horses, locomotive breath. I'll get to it. Roll film.
Stop shaking, Agda. I will hurt you.
Oh, you poor boy. Oh.
I must have human spinal fluid injected into me. It's my only chance. Sandra and I both agreed to it. It's the only way to counteract the ape fluid injection. But she won't do it.
Jane! Look, I've succeeded. It's there. Life in that tiny bottle. It's working.
Son of a
Just go.
Dark. All right, boys. Take that off of him.
I am Dracula. Do as I command, and go watch Scary as Hell Theater on the Monster Channel. Ah! Do as I command. Do as I command. Do. Now.
Ah! See there, kiddies? Once again, the bad people, they die. And the good people, they live. Mostly. Well, I'll admit that Lugosi and his pet gorilla went way overboard with that grotesquely unethical killing spree. And leave it to Karloff to skin a ginormous, hairy ape, merely to exact some unnamed revenge upon poor Bela. However, it seems to me that inevitably they both met much the same fate, did they not?
This might be the perfect opportunity to pause for a bit and pay tribute to both of these beloved boogeymen. They definitely played a major part in my formative years as a dyed-in-the-wool monster kid. Personally, I think that this was pretty consistent with the general theme, which for the most part runs through so many of Karloff's horror film portrayals.
You mean when he mysteriously stepped from the inky shadows and somberly turned to the camera and said, "As sure as my name is you-know-who, this is a thriller." I've always wanted to do that.
No, not exactly. If I might continue, I suspect that it's a comparatively rare thing to single out those parts in movies where he played a thoroughly unredeemable person, as in The Black Cat, The Body Snatcher, Bedlam, or Frankenstein 1970. By and large, his characters frequently harbored qualities of basic humanitarianism and other sympathetic traits, even if his actions were misguided or hurtful to some of those in the supporting cast.
The rabble, you mean? The uncouth extras in the storyline? The constituents of the requisite body count in any such terror tale?
Scary as Hell Theater sincerely regrets the host's unfortunate use of the word rabble to describe what has come to be celebrated as a truly vital human element within the genre of horror cinema. Please take care to direct any written complaints, rotten-smelling parcels, or gypsy curses to the host and not to the showrunner. Thank you.
For that matter, where would any of us be without a seemingly endless supply of hapless victims in horror films? Would we, by default, end up becoming sheeple and mindlessly begin to watch Dead Can Dance with the Stars? Now that's what I call horror.
After years of playing heavies in early cinema, I believe that Karloff's legendary work in James Whale's Frankenstein recast his image into someone whom the audience wanted to identify with and feel compassionate towards. Another kind of typecasting, if you will. And he embraced it. It was quite clear that he frequently tried to infuse those characteristics into his roles, whether or not they were formally scripted that way.
Are you still awake out there? Next on Geeks Who Can't Get a Date, we'll deconstruct the complex relationship between King Kong and Godzilla. And heaven help all of you when that comes to pass.
Bela had many strengths as an actor. Early on, he seemed rather overly infatuated with his conspicuous power to seduce stage and screen beauties before the fawning eyes of his female fan base. The guy seemed like a walking, talking romance novel hero, Rudolph Valentino on steroids, and he was uncannily effective at delivering the goods. Never mind that blowhard, folks. Let him snooze while we start our main feature. It's from 1932, and it's entitled The Monster Walks. It has recognizable plot elements from other genre entries. Everything from The Cat and the Canary to The Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters. Seriously, it's a film which we, hope that you'll enjoy. In the meantime, I think I'll quietly abscond with Tim's wand and see if it's got a hypersonic wedgie setting on it. That'll teach him to go nodding off during work. Hypersonic wedgie!
Hi, I'm Brink Stevens, and you're watching Scary as Hell Theater on the Monster Channel.
Well now, talk about a rude awakening.
What? Are your panties still in a twist? Do enchanters even wear panties?
Nope, I don't want to know.
Anyway, it serves you right for falling asleep on the job.
Come now, I was hardly sleeping. I was only resting my eyes. Regardless, it appears that the monkey business is well underway. So, we find ourselves resigned to spending the ominous overnight hours in this spooky old house on a dark and stormy night, where once dwelled yet another mad scientist with his homicidal organ grinder sidekick. Just to be clear, you folks out there have Stevie to thank for pounding the prevailing theme into our heads with an oversized clown hammer. It's all done for a purpose, Timmy Numbnuts. Even before they made the wildly successful and iconic King Kong, classic Hollywood seemed to frequently gravitate toward substituting apes for monsters in vintage horror fare. I expect it was an expedient way to inject some measure of brutal menace into the plot lines. Just hire a guy in a gorilla suit, or else utilize zoo animals on set, or by way of stock footage. That's easy for you to say, Mr. Jungle Boogie. Still, the fact remains that there's more to this vintage scare picture than mere monkey shines.
Knock for while you can, monkey boy.
Let's see now. We also have a recently expired corpse that's lending its fragrance to this moth-eaten residence. A stiff-backed attorney who appears to have applied a shovel handle, where the bone jangler himself famously likes to suggest a spirited insertion. A spooky old housekeeper who makes the Wicked Witch of the West look like a bygone-era pinup girl. a sinister old uncle with a poor pitiful me shtick which is already wearing upon my last frayed nerve, and the manservant, who lumbers around the place like the second coming of Caesar, the somnambulist, punctuated by an abundance of thunder and lightning. Ooh, it gives me the willies. Ooh, you mean the movie is already starting to get to you, huh? No, I just had a sudden traumatic flashback to the last time I endured a meal at Stinky Joe's barbecue truck. Whatever you do, don't ever order the Sloppy Joe's. Its namesake, whoever he was, doesn't agree with discerning taste buds or sensitive stomachs. I have yet to entirely banish the horrible aftertaste from my mouth. By the way, do we have any frozen pizza in the kitchen?
No, sorry. I neglected to tell you, but Octavian, Mr. Molto, and Slash made away with the last 3 we had stashed in the freezer when they dropped by last weekend on some kind of impromptu scavenger hunt. They each had one heat-and-serve pizza on their respective lists, and I didn't have the heart to refuse them. Plus, they definitely looked hungry. And of course, Mr. Molto's scythe? That thing looks really, really sharp, you know?
How utterly ironic. The very evening when I was across town, trying to choke down those putrid excuses for Sloppy Joe sandwiches, those 3 unashamed extortionists conspired to show up and eat us out of house and home. Oh well, let it never be underestimated the powerful appeal such fast food delicacies have upon we supernatural beings. Let's get back to the movie, shall we? While I wander into the kitchen and attempt to scare up a savory snack. What a sight! In a laboratory late one night, there began the story. Lightning flashed and something missed. A poor old crazy scientist had dropped a bag of jelly beans into his Frankenstein machine, and Shrimpenstein was created in just half the time that it takes to make a Frankenstein. And so you see, he's half the size of you and me, and though he'll try, he can't be mean. He's just a little walking jelly bean. Shrimpenstein. Aha! The plot thickens. So, Mr. Grape Ape, the old dead dude's last will and testament has been duly disseminated for all those concerned, and spiteful sideways glances are darting in nearly everybody's direction. You don't need to be Mycroft's slightly less brilliant brother to surmise that a slumber party steeped in midnight shadows and the specter of bitter resentment are not the only suspense tropes which hang heavy in the air.
Mr. Holmes, we've admired you in the past, as does every Englishman. Your record as our greatest detective is known throughout the world. Knowing that there is in England such a man as you gives us all a sense of safety and security. God bless you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I've had rather a strenuous day. I think I'll turn in. Good night.
Good night, Holmes.
Good night. Oh, Watson, the needle.
Mark my words, before this evening is over, we'll all be witnesses to a cold-blooded murder. And here we are, assailed by the worst which Mother Nature has to throw at us, cut off from any hope of seeking help from the authorities in town, and without even a trio of low-rent private eyes to render us any substantial aid in this hour of need.
I'll bet there's a dead body in every room.
That body won't hurt you.
Can't do you any good. Well, what are we waiting for?
Let's go.
Now, what do you suppose they want detectives for?
I've got an idea. Let's go in and find out.
You're terrific.
It seems as though I spoke too soon, but we scarcely need the likes of those desperately silly Ritz brothers barging in here and stealing the show.
Yeah, it really leaves you wishing that the Marx Brothers had made a scare picture, doesn't it? Chico and Harpo as a pair of down-on-their-luck grave diggers, and Groucho as a wisecracking crypt keeper. At the very least, they could have inserted a bona fide opera house ghost in A Night at the Opera. Such venues are said to be notorious for harboring the long-deceased spirits of seasoned thespians and backstage personnel alike.
Boogie, boogie, boogie. Boogie, boogie, boogie.
All of that aside, let's seize this opportunity to take a closer look at the cast in tonight's film. Rex Leese plays Dr. Ted Clayton, the handsome stiff. Vera Reynolds plays Ruth Earlton, the nervous niece. Sheldon Lewis plays Robert Earlton, the creepy uncle. Misha Auer plays Hans Krug, the brooding manservant. Sidney Bracey plays Herbert Wilkes, the family's attorney. Martha Maddox plays Mrs. Emma Tanty Krug, the housekeeper and Hans's mother. And Willie Best plays Exodus, the jittery chauffeur.
And every one of them have gone on to their respective rewards. Each of those sorry slobs have been pushing up the daisies for untold decades. They all met the hour of their demise, negotiated the veil between the parallel worlds, and joined the realm of phantoms in the mist-laden fields of eternity. Did you ever stop to ponder, while watching some of these old flicks, that you were, in rather an incidental way, visiting the hallowed silver nitrate halls of the long departed?
Duh! But thanks for the input, Captain Obvious.
By the way, how is it that it's raining over here, where I am, but not over there where you are?
Beats me. Maybe it's the spirit of spring's bitter tears over how wicked you are. Hey, don't you just love a good mystery?
Humph.
Hey Ghosters, it's your outcast Slash and my video bug breath Dewey from Slash's Graveyard Tales. and you're watching my horror host brother, Tim The Enchanter, and his show, Scary as Hell Theater, right here on the Monster Channel. It's one It's one hell of a time.
And so, much like snuffing out a candle flame, Tanty Krug is no more. See there? What did I tell you? Murder, most foul and insidious. You know, it may not be immediately apparent to look at me, since I do tend to conceal my age rather well. But I've actually been around the block a time or two. I've seen enough of life, and enough of these kinds of films, to heed the implicit warning that it simply isn't worth risking life and limb to attend one of these oh-so-treacherous reading of the will soirees. Oh yeah? Geez, as I recall, that wasn't the tune you were singing back in the late 1990s, when your long-forgotten relation, Uncle Angus Smuthound, passed away, and presumably left his sizable smut empire fortune to one of two distant nephews, either you or Gary. Gary the Enchanter. We do not speak that name. Not in my presence, as you know all too well. You, of all people, should know the dangers of reopening old wounds. Okay, point taken. Just the same, I still feel as though it might be a healthy thing to perhaps think about exorcising the remnants of that bad experience from your heart. After all, Gary is your only surviving relative, and the two of you really ought to consider burying the old hatchet while the opportunity is still there to do so. Oh, I would dearly like to bury the old hatchet, all right. And that's the third time you've used his name, when you damn well know better. I warn you, do not push me too far, or you will live to regret it. Hey, it's easy for you to sit there in your own funk and threaten me. What else is new, huh? Just remember, though, I'm still in possession of your wand from before. Listen, our bitter personal differences aside, I'm just trying to help ease you into a more positive place, for your own good, if not for your shared circumstance as estranged blood relatives and avid practitioners of the dark magical arts. It would do you both good to find whatever common ground that may exist, and maybe put an end to your long-standing family feud. As you wish. You've been cautioned. So, let it be on your own pointed head. Also, what you propose is simply an impossibility. It's painfully obvious to everybody that he used his vastly inferior enchanter powers to alter Uncle Angus's will in his favor. All of the evidence points to that having been the case. Therefore, I shall never, never, never forgive that fiendish betrayal. Not in this lifetime or the next. Look at it this way. If you had received the benefit of your Uncle Angus's vast fortune, all you likely would have done was to have blown it on courting bimbos and wagering long shots at the track. As many springs and summers as you've seen through the years, Tim,
You'd think that by now you would have realized that there's so much more to this life than the aimless pursuit of superficial gratification.
So you say, what do you know of such things? Give me superficial gratification every time, thank you. Run the gamut before time runs out and it's too late. And in the immortal words of Hank Bukowski, there are worse things than being alone. But it often takes decades to realize this. And most often, when you do, it's too late. And there's nothing worse than too late.
Wow! Thanks so much for that traumatizing Skid Row Laureate gem. Way to send our more impressionable viewers running, in a panic, to self-destructively wield their grandfather's straight razors. Geez, now we're going to have to run a hastily prepared disclaimer and post the number for the National Crisis Hotline prior to the end of the show. Swift move, Dilbert.
Always more than pleased to infuse a little post-beat era counterculture into the stream and flow of things. Even if it's not fully appreciated by the simpletons in the Ghoul Beach Peanut Gallery.
How about sending the viewers back to the conclusion of our feature, while I seek to facilitate a little damage control here?
As you wish. Thankfully, it's not too late for us to rejoin the spine-tingling climax of tonight's film.
Hello, sir. Enchanter, I need more elixir. The transformation isn't complete. I need more elixir. Maybe Southern Sweet style tea, perhaps. Elixir. No, I'm just kidding. I know you're not an alchemist. Although I do believe that you did dabble in some amateur chemistry of a pharmaceutical nature, perhaps back in the 60s? Perhaps. Something to be said. Pay no attention to that wizard behind the curtain, because who knows what he's doing back there. That's not the wizard you're looking for. That's the old enchanter. Old Enchanter number 79 coming down the tracks. His old wand is smoking up, rolling down there. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm on the train kick. Whew, hoboing. Last episode, it took a toll on my sanity. Not that that would take very much. I'm a little frazzled. Damn it. Shut up, Stan. He's not a wizard. Quit saying wizard. You're confusing me. Enchanter. Not to be confused with the N-word. Don't say it. Necromancer. What'd you think I was going to say? Nimrod? No. The N-word. Necromancer. God, dude. I will claw your face. We're on, dude. So, magic, wizardry, enchantment. Shut up! It's enchantment. He is enchanting. He has a wonderful singing voice and he's very funny. Shut up. Shocker. Tim the Enchanter. Not to be confused with Gary the Enchanter. He does dry cleaning. He can get stains out of all kinds of things. Stains you would never dream of. He does a lot of work in the adult film industry, cleaning the clothing and the sofas and whatnot. He's a wizard in his own right. Isn't that right, Tim? But we never speak of Gary. Gary the Enchanter. I'm an old cracked up egg, cracking up a hard-boiled egg. What's that smell? That's a hard-boiled egg. It made my eyes burn. Hard-boiled egg. Okay, we're going on forever, so I see ya. Sorry, I'm trying to do it. Shocker. Word your monster. Wizard. Enchanter.
As I live and breathe, I thought that Stevie would never take a restroom break. Owing to the unfortunate fact that he has absconded with my wand, I thought that I would avail myself of this opportunity to spike his herbal tea with a wee bit of pickled Amazonian toadswort. A fitting additive, if you ask me. What can I say? I'm a spiteful old enchanter. It's simply my way of getting over on that hopelessly obnoxious simp. Add to that the curious fact that it has a tendency to send him ever so slightly around the bend. Hey, bonus. So, stay tuned for the wicked fun.
Staring into an evil space. It's quite wonderful.
Thrilling, chilling, and it's all here on Scary as Hell Theater. I wouldn't turn away if I were you.
Nobody does scary like McQuarrie.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Yikes! And I thought I was a tactless old sod. What a note for this creaky old whodunit to end on.
Yes, that era of classic movies produced its share of problematic material. Such films are of a particular time and place, and I don't believe that they should be so casually deep-sixed just because of a few poorly conceived lines here and there. But to each their own, I say. Hey, to paraphrase the dude, yeah, well, you know, that's just like my opinion, man.
Darkness washed over the dude, darker than a black steer's tuchus on a moonless prairie night. There was no bottom. What? Hell's bells! Now you've got me quoting Big Lebowski scripture. At any rate, for my part, after that stale little genre offering, I'm left with the overwhelming sense of its excessively theatrical staginess. It's as if the production couldn't make up its mind whether it was a low-rent play or a low-rent film?
Well, of course, that owes a lot to the acting styles of the time. Keep in mind, the vast majority of actors during those years were recruited from the legitimate theater. When Hollywood made the changeover from silent cinema to talkies, it became imperative to find actors who could speak with a certain degree of clarity and authority. So yeah, that accounts for the exaggerated qualities in mannerisms, postures, and line deliveries of the actors involved.
Sounds like a lot of bloody weak rationalizations. Why try to put a better face on it? Granted, to some viewers, I may be coming off as just a little bit harsh. However, in the fabled words of legendary horror host Seymour, I call them as I see them. Regardless, we've survived the worst of things. And yes, by all accounts, there's something to be said for having a strong stomach.
Oh, that reminds me. You know, I felt a little bad about the whole frozen pizza snafu earlier in the show. So anyway, well, I took the initiative and ordered up a little something for you from a local eatery.
Oh, really? My goodness gracious. Knock me over with a raven's feather.
Call it a peace offering. All things being equal, Tim, despite our seemingly frequent clashes and disagreements, I just wanted you to know that I really do appreciate what you regularly bring to the show.
That's awfully sporting of you, old boy. After all, like any self-respecting army of darkness, we horror hosts typically travel on our stomachs. To say nothing of the sad fact that our craft services table here in the dingy old production space is typically lacking in variety and appeal. So yes, I most certainly thank you for your very kind gesture.
Think nothing of it. Hey, I was just sorry to have missed out on witnessing Tim's trying to choke down Stinky Joe's Fukushima-tinged serial killer victim's cuisine a few days ago. Just between us, I have the feeling that this could be the coup de grace of all food poisoning comeuppances.
Why is it green?
Oh, that's just their patented secret sauce.
And why does it glow?
Oh, the delivery guy, he was delayed, so I warmed it up in the microwave.
I see. Looks a bit suspicious to me. I believe that I have Stinky Joe's toxic supper menu to thank for this. And if the putrid aroma is any indication, Joe's source of principal ingredients hasn't seen any significant improvement. Beyond that, this sleazy snack appears to be ever so slightly radioactive. So Stevie, perhaps I'll let these jittery molecules settle down a bit before I dig in. But I appreciate the thought, such as it is. Now, if I could perhaps have my wand back.
Don't push it, buddy. As Hannibal Lecter is so fond of saying, all good things to those who wait.
Right. As long as I'm not acting here as Jodie Foster to your Anthony Hopkins.
I've been in this situation with him, on and off, for untold years, and I know that they will never ever let me out while I'm alive. What I want is a view. I want to see a tree or even water. I want to be in a horror host's rest home, far away from the insufferable enchanter's continual nonsense.
Earth to Stevie, ground control to Major Tom, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Do you read NASA Central?
I'm offering you a psychological profile of Sticky Joe based on the case evidence. I'll help you catch him, Clarice.
Well, my onerous onlookers, it appears that Stevie has gone bye-bye. Meanwhile, let's take this opportunity to show our Horror Host tribute segment, while I seek to do a little damage control with my flounderingly delusional showrunner. Yes, in the case of the original Svengoolie, audiences of that era could scarcely have hoped for a more original or more agile-witted host. Wouldn't you agree, Polly? Regardless, it does my typically cynical heart good to salute such a splendid old pro as that. And in other developments closer to home, I regret to inform you that my resident sidekick, Stevie, has flipped his lid, gone around the bend, and otherwise come down with an acute case of distemper. My, I might even have to have the poor fellow committed for psychiatric evaluation. Oh, it's nothing so serious as that. Why must you insist upon being such a mendacious scoundrel? I've just been burning the candle at both ends a little too often lately. I just need to get a little rest. I just need a wee tiny respite from everything. After that, I'll be as right as rain. That's very insightful of you, Stevie. Truth to tell, I believe that's precisely what you are in need of. A little cooling off period. And with grateful thanks to my spiderific friend, Iris, I believe that I can help you out with that. Sock it to him, baby. And you can start by giving him a taste of his own torrential downpour medicine. Oh, brother. I guess that'll teach me to stay well stocked in Western Exterminator strength bug spray. All right, fine. You win this round, both of you. But I won't soon forget this. No, I most certainly won't.
Meanwhile, I reiterate what I said earlier in the show. Enchanter, you're a poor creature. A poor creature.
And your little arachnid friend, too. Oh, you're going to need more than one lesson. And you're going to get more than one lesson. So then, take all of that with you into your dreams tonight. And rest easy in the knowledge that your slumber will give way to a brand new day. And by all the laws of equity and fair play, what goes around comes around. Ready when you are, Sergeant Pembry. Hypersonic wedgie!
It's all fun and games until Gary the Enchanter shows up. That's right. You better look out. Timothy, your brother's coming, and I'm kicking your ass. You were always Mom and Dad's favorite. Yeah, that's why I hate you. Yeah. Come and get you, boy.
The haunted month of October is at its frightening zenith as a swirling fog bank crawls off the driftwood-littered shoreline, skulks past the time-ravaged headstones, inhabiting the Pioneer Cemetery, to inevitably engulf the nearby mountainside and the lamp-lit homes facing the frigid seascape. Yes, in its way, the often sleepy coastal settlement of Ghoul Beach has many mysterious and evocative things in common with those fabled reaches of Collinsport. This is Tim the Enchanter. And this is Stevie Gothling. We're the hosts of Scary as Hell Theater, as seen on the Monster Channel. We've gathered here to affectionately lend our voices to Penny Dreadful's exquisitely rendered podcast, Terror at Collinwood, to share a few thoughts about Dan Curtis's enduring creation, Dark Shadows. You know, I used to know a Barney Collins way back when, but he wasn't a vampire. He was, however, something of a lurker and a creep. Oh well, it takes one to know one, Tim. More to the point here, I count myself among the many during the 1960s who raced home from school each weekday afternoon in order to lock my gaze upon that landmark television offering. In a very intoxicating way, those daily episodes, so gloriously steeped in beckoning gothic splendor, only served to fuel my macabre sensibilities. First so powerfully instigated by the classic Universal horror cycles of the 1930s and 40s, the allure of Dark Shadows was unquestionably potent and long-lasting within my monster kid soul, which was always desirous of old dark house-style ghostly intrigues. Such darkly drawn fare has always been something of a happy place for me. Clearly, Mr. Underling, you were quite a weird little boy.
Yeah, wore it like a badge of honor.
At any rate, I too must confess an enduring reverence for the original series, if only because it served to reinforce my long-standing opinion that every family has its skeletons in their closet, and perhaps, by extension, its vampires, its specters, its werewolves. My Uncle Angus, for instance, used to exhibit a rather alarming tendency to sprout additional facial hair during certain moon-soaked nights, and even took to howling incessantly at the moon.
Yes, how tragic that your uncle finally met his end during a werewolf spa flea dip gone horribly wrong. Anyway, as wonderful as the TV series was, it hardly prepared me for what a memorable event that first feature film would be, House of Dark Shadows. Talk about a vampire holocaust. Pretty much the entire cast eventually came under the curse of Barnabas's fiendish blood plague. I had never seen so much pulsing crimson splatter on the silver screen.
A stunning confluence of cinematic bloodsuckers, to be sure. And with that, may we wish all of you a happy Halloween.
And remember, Dark Shadows remains eternal.